It's 100% entertainment, 100% electricity, 100%
Pipebomb Radio with your host, Felix Olmedo.
Be the man! You gotta beat the man!
Austin James.
And that's the bottom line, 'cause Stone Cold said so.
And Nate Milton.
Can you dig it, sucker?
Hello and welcome everybody to Pipebomb Radio tonight at a special start time. You'll have to forgive my intro. The intro for the show is still kind of being worked on, and we're obviously, since Austin is, I let Austin go, we need to move his name off the show now and move on. The future's still looking bright for Pipebomb Radio, as it will be tonight as we bring in Wildkat World Heavyweight Champion Shane Taylor to the show to talk about the upcoming Wildkat show that they have called Heatin' Up. It is on May 16th, this coming Saturday night, and we'll get more information about that as the champ calls in and talks about what's going to happen at the show. What's it like to have been the World Heavyweight Champion for Wildkat Wrestling, and so much more. I should be joined here, of course, by my partner in crime here, Nate Milton, in just a moment. But in the meantime, folks, for those who tuned in to Monday Night Raw, do you guys see that the main event is kind of changing for something that could be pretty interesting? Could we see a twist? Could we see some kind of turn? Maybe, the point being, do you see Seth Rollins leaving with the World Heavyweight Championship? It sure doesn't appear that way, but with the interesting little twist of Kane now saying, now obviously Triple H puts up the word that if Seth loses, Kane no longer is the director of operations. Now, does that mean that Kane wants to move off on his own and do his own thing? Because, I mean, in reality, what does Kane have left to prove? He's been one of the longer tenured superstars, but at the same time, he is getting older, and I'm sure he'll want to venture off and do other things. I guess only time will tell. And let us speak, of course, about the Macho Mandow. I'm not sure what to make of that. I'm going to talk about that with Nate in just a little bit. And Axelmania. Now, some might actually take that as an insult to the Mega Powers. Some might call it a interesting tribute. I'm not sure what to call it. I'll be very honest. You know, I didn't know what to make of the infamous handshake between the two. And, well, that's interesting discussion. I'll leave up for myself and Nate when he calls in. But in the meantime, if I'm not mistaken, let me see. Should have our champ calling in here in just a moment to again talk about the upcoming Wildkat show coming up, Heatin' Up. So those who are tuning in to listen to the champ speak, hang tight, folks. He should be calling in just a moment, as should be my co-host. But back to the idea at hand. That one caught me off guard. I'd seen how much success they had off of it. Do you believe maybe WWE is building off the Hall of Fame from the Macho Man getting his induction into the Hall of Fame with Macho Mandow? What do you guys think of his impression? He's gotten away with successful impressions in the past, and now teaming up with Curtis Axel. Could they just not have nothing for these two to do? You know, I'm not really sure what to make of it. They're going to be facing the Ascension on the kickoff. Could this be the start of something? Could this be a mockery? You know, I'll let you guys be the judge. I have my own opinions about it. And when is the Beast returning to Raw? That's the ultimate question. He was suspended back at the day after WrestleMania, and we haven't seen him or Paul Heyman in a few months. Well, I guess it's only been about a month, but just got word that my partner should be joining me here momentarily. So with that, we'll just go ahead and continue with our little discussion here. Hang tight, folks. The champ will be calling in just a moment. And for those who want to listen in to what the champ has to say, make sure you call in at 347-202-0399 if you want to ask the champ a question or just listen in. Feel free to do that. We've had many of the Wildkat guys on the show in the past. Wildkat boss Luke Hawks, he's been on a few times. We've had Kurt Matthews. We've had, who have we had? We've had quite a few. Purple Haze. Who else? We've had quite a few. Buku Dao. Now, that one, without a doubt, was the most interesting one because when we had him, Austin booked him on, and I did not understand a word the kid was saying. I don't know if he was in character, if that's the way he talks. Austin said that was the way he talks, so I just let them two take it away and talk, and I just kind of stood out and just stood back and listened in and laughed at the same time. Is that you, Shane?
Yes, sir.
Oh, my goodness, I'm sorry. I was actually looking to see for maybe it was a Texas area code and wasn't sure if that was you. My apologies.
Yeah, I have a Pennsylvania area code because I used to live in Pittsburgh for about 8 years before I moved down to Texas.
My goodness, did you ever run into Bruno out there?
Yeah, I've actually met Bruno a few times. He's one of the most stand-up guys I've ever met.
Yeah. No, like my apologies for getting me on here a little late, but
you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And we'll go ahead and kick this off. My partner should be calling in here in just a moment, but I appreciate you taking time to come on the show and talk about, being the champ of one of the most reputable and most talked about independent wrestling companies out there right now. I don't even want to call it independent wrestling company because it's just really a wrestling company. And they put on some amazing shows. And the feud you guys have been having with Reality of Wrestling has been pretty awesome to watch, I have to say. You know, getting involved with Booker T and his company. Been some good stuff, I have to say, man. How does it feel to be the champ, and where's the champ going, and what's he got planned for this Saturday night?
First off, thank you guys for having me. It's always a pleasure. Being the champ, you know, I've been wrestling for almost 9 years now. For a while up in the Northeast, in Ohio and Pennsylvania, like I said, before I made my way across the country a little bit. Moved down to Texas, but it wasn't until getting in Wildkat and ultimately winning the belt after beating Ryan Davidson and Abel Andrew Jackson in that tournament that my career really took off. I mean, it virtually overnight, like you said, being a part of one of the most reputable and exciting wrestling companies on the planet. You know, my name was everywhere like that, you know. So I've been having to adjust to that, which isn't really a bad adjustment. There are worse problems to have. But it's been a roller coaster ride, and I can't wait to see what the next hill is. But as far as my plans for this weekend, again, those that don't know or haven't heard, I am defending my Wildkat Sports heavyweight title against none other than one half of Harlem Heat, Stevie Ray, who is coming off of a 10-year retirement to wrestle me. Now, some people call it guts, some people call it heart. I happen to call it stupid. People in their prime don't like wrestling me, so to come out of retirement to wrestle me is a big chance. But you're also talking about one of the most influential members of the tag team of the last 25 years. You know,
absolutely.
Booker T is already in the Hall of Fame, and personal feelings for Stevie aside, I feel as though he should be there too. They paved the way for a lot of guys, like including myself, you know, to be able to do what we do. So he's won, I don't even know how many championships it is across the world. Made a huge name for himself. The guy's a legend, but he's walking into my backyard to try to take something from me, you know, and that's just not going to happen. As no one's ever been able to take anything from me, and it's not going to start with Stevie Ray.
And there's obviously going to be a new Hall of Pain, or in this case, a wall of pain, or just a lot of pain for Stevie Ray. But I want to introduce you now, Shane, to my co-host, Nate Milton. Nate, this is the champ.
How you doing, Nate?
Hey, how you doing, champ?
What's going on, brother? How you been?
Been pretty good, man. Been pretty good. Running a little bit late due to work, but it's good to be talking to you, man.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you so much. I just left the gym myself, so I just love just continuing to work, getting ready for this weekend.
Absolutely. Now I hadn't had a chance to check out what you and Felix talked about for the last couple of minutes, but I do know that you are a proud Cleveland native. So
yes,
this
sir.
is the playoffs. Are you a big Cavs fan and by extension a LeBron James fan?
I am a big Cavs fan, yes. It doesn't matter who's on the team. I was a Cavs fan before LeBron James got to Cleveland. I was a Cavs fan when he was here. I was a Cavs fan when he left. So the fact that he's on the team and helping the team, yeah, that's great for the team. I'm glad they brought Kyrie Irving some help, but it doesn't matter to me one way or the other. I fully understand his choice of leaving. A lot of people, aren't going to say that, but I get it. But I think it's very hypocritical for a lot of Cleveland fans, especially the ones that were burning his jersey and all that. So then when he decided to come back, they were the same ones waiting downtown in a parade, to welcome this guy back. So to me, that makes no sense. I just stayed consistent, and I was just a Cavs fan the whole time. But it's been one heck of a series with the Bulls. I mean, the last two games were decided by buzzer beaters. Like if that's the precedent that they're setting for things to come, it's going to be a very, very exciting few games.
It's been crazy, and I'm not just a sports fan. Obviously, I'm a wrestling fan. So I wonder, you growing up in Cleveland, was your ambition always to wrestle, or did you maybe want to play football or baseball or any other sport?
I played about everything when I was growing up, from baseball to wrestling, to football, and then I really started to find my niche when it came to high school. Went to Normandy High School in Cleveland, Ohio, and was a 4-year starter, for football, for wrestling, track and field. So I did pretty much everything. Went to Slippery Rock University to wrestle there, played ball there, and pro wrestling was always something that I wanted to do, but never really knew how to do, because the only thing you see growing up was WCW at the time, and of course WWE. So that's all that I knew that was there. I had no idea how you actually went about becoming a professional wrestler except to go there. But after college was when I really sat down and I had a choice. I had three choices. It was either chase my dream, go find a real job, or or train for the Olympics, and set my sights for that. I decided to chase my dream because it's always something that I wanted to do, and I didn't want to look back on my life and go, man, well, what if I had just done that, or what if I had gone for it? I couldn't have lived with that, so here we are.
Well, I got to ask you now. Growing up, who were some of your heroes, and some that, as far as in the world of professional wrestling, that you grew up watching, idolizing, and what made you ultimately decide to want to pursue professional wrestling?
My heroes growing up, a lot of people would say, Hogan or the old Ultimate Warrior or guys like that, but my favorites were Vader, Stan Hansen, and The Undertaker. And if you watch my stuff, you can see elements of all of them in the things that I do. Vader, because you guys know, I'm never gonna be like guys like Luke, with 6-packs and huge elephant arms and all that. You know what I mean? So that was never me. So I never looked up to those guys because I couldn't relate to those guys. But when I would watch Vader and watch guys like Stan Hansen, these are just big, athletic dudes that weren't ripped, but just beating the crap out of people. Just, big, mean dudes. And I was like, yeah, I can do that for sure. So that's where I was hooked. And, watching, I couldn't get enough tape. I'd have my dad, who works for the city in water repair and pipe repair, just finding me every sort of wrestling tape that he could find, from Japan all the way to WCW to everything in between, just studying Vader and Stan Hansen. That's why I lariat to this day. So yeah, I mean, that's what really inspired me into professional wrestling. And then once I left college, I was like, hey man, like, this is, I can do this. Let's figure out how to do it.
Absolutely.
All right.
Now, Shane, I'm a longtime wrestling fan, and whenever I talk wrestling with my friends, eventually the subject always turns to, the portrayal of minorities in wrestling.
Yeah.
And I think this week, the conversation has started again with, I don't know if you had a chance to see MVP cut his promo on TNA this past week.
I did not.
Okay, well, he used the N-word, and it, unlike when Booker T said it to Hulk Hogan, it was intentional. So
right.
I'm wondering, in terms of the way that, African Americans and Latinos are portrayed in pro wrestling, do you think that, it's obviously wrestling is hard for anyone to make it in, but do you think there's different challenges for people of color in this business?
I would say undoubtedly so. That doesn't mean that those obstacles and barriers can't be overcome. What that means is, just like anything else, you're going to have to try that much harder at it. I was always told, like, the schools that I went to were predominantly white high schools and white middle schools and things like that. So I was always told growing up, you're going to have to be 3 times better than the next person just to get the same chances. So that's the mindset that I take into everything, including my everyday life and pro wrestling. A lot of people have to understand that while it is unfortunate, you're also placating to the masses. And unfortunately, what most of the masses see us as are the things they see on TV, which are, the stereotypical black guy, rapper with chains and, smoking this and doing that, or the overpaid athlete that's still going to the clubs and getting into fights and guns and all that. So that's what they see. So pro wrestling,
the thugs or preachers.
Exactly. It's not very often that someone will portray a minority person as being an integral part of society. A doctor, a lawyer, something like that. So, and wrestling is an extension of society and how society is working. Thus, with like the Attitude Era, all they were doing was just portraying society and the attitude of that time. When it comes to minorities in wrestling, and the path that we want to take and the way that we want to be portrayed, we have to take a long, hard look at where we're at, not only as a culture but as a society, and figure out where you want to go. Me personally, I try to stray away from, being a thug or a gangster or a rapper or any type of gimmick like that. While I'm very intense, that's not me being angry. That's me being an intense competitor, ready to go out and compete for what's mine and compete with the guy that I'm in the ring with. That's my take on my take on it. Hopefully, I can be one of those guys to lead this next generation of people, of performers, into, breaking through that glass ceiling and showing the world just what we can do outside of stereotypical performing.
There you go.
Absolutely.
And at this point, I got to ask too, getting into Wildkat, how did you hear about Wildkat, and how did you get in contact with Luke? I mean, how did that whole situation get into it, and you got to be working with him?
That's actually very easy. Raymond Rowe, who's a Ring of Honor star, is one of the guys who helped train me when I first started in Cleveland. And with all of his success, he's taken me all around the country. The guy's my big brother, like legitimately. Blood couldn't make us any closer, even though we like to fight a lot and punch each other in the face. It's just what brothers do, you know.
Oh yeah.
But he was booked for a Wildkat show, and he brought me along. He had told Luke about me, but I don't think Luke got to watch any of the tape or anything. So my very first match was against Carlos Socorro that Luke happens to be wrestling this weekend, and I went out there. We fought. Socorro ended up winning the match, but I beat that dude within an inch of his life, you know. But he happened to win the match, showed a lot of heart and guts, and after that, I came to the back. Luke looked me right in the eyes and was like, "Dude, you got a job here as long as you want it." And I was like, "All right."
That's pretty cool. Luke's definitely been he's always an upstanding, very, very cool guy, and he's been a joy to have. We've had on almost everybody in Wildkat on the show, and, you know, it was about time. I told Luke, I said, we got to have the champ on, man. We got to have the champ on. Got to represent Wildkat, you know?
Absolutely.
But, that's a cool story. Luke's always a stand-up guy. I'm glad to hear that.
Always. Yes, sir.
Yeah, now, you mentioned, you know, when you were watching wrestling growing up, it was pretty much, you know, the big two, WCW and the WWF, now the WWE. But now I think we're living in an age where it's I'm not going to say it's as big as the boom in the 90s, but I'd say it's probably the healthiest the business has been in about 10, 15 years, with companies like Lucha Underground and ROH, TNA still kicking along. You know, you've got Jeff Jarrett working on something out there. So the options are a little bit more open for somebody with the potential that you have. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Oh, wow. If anybody from all of those companies are listening, I would love to work for everybody. But, you know, and I mean, honestly, it doesn't, where I go doesn't matter to me so much. I mean, you know, when I got into wrestling, I had two goals. One was to go to Japan, and the second was to be able to provide a life for my daughter that, you know, that I could be proud of and that she could be proud of. It didn't really matter where I did that at. So for me, if it's Ring of Honor, then great. If it's TNA, fantastic. If it's New Japan, if it's Noah, if it's WWE, if it's NXT, all of that is great. You know, it doesn't. If it's Global Force with Jarrett, that's fantastic. You know, wherever I go, wherever the next 5 years takes me, I'm going to do my best to make them as much money as humanly possible, and enjoy putting everybody else out of business that didn't take the chance on Shane Taylor. So that's the way I see it. So whoever brings the contract first, we're in business.
There you go.
Billy Corgan just took over creative for TNA, so I hope you're listening, Billy.
Yeah.
There you go, man. Hey.
We're here, brother. And since we're talking about TNA right now, shouts out to another Ohio kid, EC3. Also a good buddy of mine.
Doing great work now. Doing
great stuff down there. Great stuff.
Oh, absolutely. And we talked about it very briefly in the beginning, Shane. I wanted to hear how you met the man, how you met the living legend Bruno Sammartino. How did you meet him, and what was he like? I mean, what was the conversation about a little bit? I mean, how did you come about meeting him?
I was at a show in Pittsburgh, International Wrestling Cartel, that's run by Justin Plummer right now. At the time, it was ran by Chuck Roberts. They had brought Bruno in for a show, and I was just talking to him there, you know, just very briefly, just about being an amateur wrestler and now being a pro, and just picking his brain a little bit on, you know, on some things that he saw during my match, and just really kind of soaking in, you know, everything that he was saying, because when a guy like that speaks to you, you better pay attention, because everything he says is very important. So it was just stuff like that. Him giving me some critiques, some advice, and wishing me well on the future and things that I was doing. So, just a little bit, but from me talking to him, you could really see the passion is still there. You know, everything that he was saying, he really, you know, he had the intent of actually helping you, which is a very rare quality in this business. So many people just tell you what you want to hear or just push you along. He like sat me down and really like looked me in the eye and was like, "Hey kid, you got this. This was good, but fix this and then do this." Like, so it was really, it was a proud moment and very, very humbling to have him actually take the time out of his day to help me out.
That's awesome.
Very cool. Very cool. Mm-hmm. Now, I liked what you had to say earlier about, you know, your two goals in the sport, and I think that it's great to have that focus, because if you go after those two things, you know, A, going to Japan, and B, providing a living for your daughter, you know, everything else is going to fall into place.
Exactly.
But one of the things I would think as a fan, you've got to have some dream matches in the back of your mind. One that I was thinking about, even before we started talking, one match that I think not just myself, but a lot of the listeners would love to see is yourself and Bobby Lashley. Is there anybody?
Oh.
You know, is there anybody that you think you have a great dream match with?
There's a few of them on the list, man. Bobby Lashley would definitely be a guy that is on the list with his power and speed and athleticism. That's not a walk in the park by any means for anybody walking the face of the earth. So that's tough. I mean, and my dream, I think my number one dream guy to be in the ring with as of right now would be Taker. And I know he's getting up there in years. He's almost done, but he's always been one of the guys too that I was just like, man, to be that big, that fast, that agile, to be that good at what you do, you know, is you know, there's no other way to describe him than what they call him, which is the Phenom. The guy's amazing. So he's one of the guys that would be out there. Lashley would be one. Samoa Joe would be one.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about Lesnar? What about Brock?
I would love to wrestle Brock Lesnar with Paul Heyman there talking trash the whole time. I would love that. You know, I've never backed down from any man, so I was like, hey, you know, two things are gonna happen: either I win or I lose. Like, so, you know, it's not really, you know, it's not really gonna be, you know, it's not rocket science. So I would love to fight Brock Lesnar.
You know, we've got Wildkat show heating up coming up this Saturday, May 16th. Tickets are available at wildcatsports.com.
Wildkat with a K
going to be
for
facing,
anybody that doesn't know.
The champ is going to be facing legendary superstar Stevie Ray.
That's right.
You know, and if the fans want to keep up with what all your upcoming shows, obviously we mentioned this one. How can they keep up with you on your social media? Do you have, obviously you got a Facebook, I believe you said you even had a Twitter. Do you have any other social media?
I just got a Twitter and an Instagram. I know I'm behind the times, but I honestly didn't see the importance for like 5 years, and I was like, that's so stupid, I'm not going to do that. And like, sure enough, Ray was like, yeah, bro, you got to get one of those, and I was like, oh, all right. Like, so yeah, everybody, you can check out the Facebook page, Shane Taylor, and Twitter and Instagram, both at Shane216Taylor. You can check out everything that I'm doing, the man card statuses and all that stuff that everybody likes. So all that stuff will be right there at Shane216Taylor.
Awesome deal. Awesome deal. We want to wish you the very best of luck against Stevie Ray. It's not going to be a walk in the park, but then again, Stevie Ray's not going to walk out of there untouched or anything at all, because he's in for a world of hurting.
Yes, he is, and he's damn sure not walking out with my Wildkat Sports title either. So you can forget that.
There you go. We wish you guys the best on your show coming up and your title defense.
Thank you, brother.
And
thank you
much. Thank you for just having the time to sit down and chat with us about your start in the business, some of the people you've met, and who you'd like to meet, and dream matches and so forth. We definitely look forward to bringing you back sometime in the future if you're up for it.
Hey, brother, I would love it. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Not a problem, man. We wish you the very best, and have a great night, man.
You too, guys. Bye-bye.
All right, watch out for that slapjack from Stevie Ray, brother.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's already been scouted.
Oh, good stuff, man.
All right, bro.
Bye-bye.
Take it easy.
And there you have it. Wildkat heavyweight champion Shane Taylor. Great guy. He's you know what? He's got the build like, you know, dude, I could see him really getting in there with a Big E Langston or with a Mark Henry and those two bulls going at it. It'd be a hell of a match.
Yeah,
I mean, just total power
yeah.
match between even a triple threat. It's just a power match in between. My goodness. But yeah, great kid. You know, they've always been good to us. We've always had some of the great talent on here, and you know, Luke Hawks is. We've got to congratulate Luke as well. He recently was signed with Global Force Wrestling.
Yeah,
he's going to be going into Jeff Jarrett's company and making some money. And I don't mean he's leaving Wildkat behind. He's just going out there and spreading the word and working with Jeff. I think that's going to be a good addition, as well as two other former guests, Lady Tapa and Quinn Moose Ojinaka, I think I said it right, who've also been signed on to Global Force Wrestling starting in June. Exciting stuff, man.
Yeah, like we were talking about with Shane. You know, it's an interesting time in wrestling, man. It's not just the WWE anymore. You know, there's a lot of places that people can go and be seen and get exposure and make good money and still have the freedom to do a bunch of other things. So, yeah, I hope the best for Global Force and all these other companies as well, because the more places there are for people like Shane Taylor to get work and be seen, it's the best for, you know, to steal Triple H's line, it's what's best for business.
There you go. Come on now, we got rid of that one best for business guy. Let's have another.
Somebody
not
had to
have
bring
another
it
one
back.
now.
Somebody had to pick up the gimmick.
But you know, and I was talking a little bit at the start of the show. You know, the way it's going, I still feel with the main event now decided for Payback, I still feel like there's a twist. There's a turn. Something's going to happen. Seth is not leaving. I don't see him leaving without the title. And if they do, it's because they've got something set up for maybe another possibility for maybe Brock when he returns. And I've heard speculation maybe it'd be in Randy Orton versus Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. That would be interesting because they haven't faced each other in over a decade, and both are more advanced now than they were back then. But who do you see leaving as a champion? Do you see the champ coming out of this one? Do we see the director of operations still as the director of operations?
Well, it's interesting because you know, they just announced that the Elimination Chamber is going to be at the end of the month.
Yeah.
So, you know, it could go a lot of different ways. I could easily see Seth retaining this week, but ultimately losing in the Elimination Chamber, or I could see him losing this week and then winning it back in the Elimination Chamber. But ultimately, I think Seth Rollins is the guy that, you know, you want to set up to face Lesnar.
Here's an interesting twist. I read somewhere just today that the Elimination Chamber is not going to be based around the world title. It's actually going to be based around. There's going to be two Elimination Chamber matches. One is going to be for the vacated IC title, and the other one is going to be for the World Tag Team title, which I thought was kind of interesting to put tag teams in there.
Yeah.
I don't know how true this is. Of course, this is just something I read. Until we see it happen, we don't know if it's true or not. So, interesting idea. I like the idea because it's different. It's not something that they constantly do, making it all about the world title. But then again, what type of match will it be at Elimination Chamber if they're going to make a title match? Honestly, in my opinion, I think they should kind of pull back on some of these pay-per-views. Don't be so oversaturated with so many pay-per-views.
I agree, because, you know, we're having, you know, one show, and then 2 weeks later we got to get ready for another show, and it's like, you know, you don't have time to breathe, you don't have time to build the stories. And the other problem, I think, is we're seeing too many rematches. You know what I mean? Like, this is Cena and Rusev coming up for the fourth straight time. You're getting rematches already with Sheamus and Dolph Ziggler, and, you know, it's like, I'd like to see fresher matchups. I'd like to see, you know, things kind of get time to breathe and just mix things up a little bit. Like, how great would it have been if the match we saw on Raw between Cena and Neville if that was at a pay-per-view.
Yeah. Or for that matter, Sami Zayn. Sami had a great coming out, but he got injured. So I'm like, well, God, that kind of sucked. You know? It'd be nice for them to change it up. I like the idea of them changing it up each week and letting the young guys get in there and wrestle with I guess the big cheese, if you will. But those would be pay-per-view type quality matches.
Yeah, I like that. I would say, funny enough, like as much as the folks that listen to this show and other internet wrestling shows or things of that nature like to get on John Cena, like this U.S. title run has been pretty cool because how often do you get to see a top guy work with a lot of these guys that are either coming up from NXT or in the mid-card, and all the matches, I would say, have been pretty good. So I think this has been a nice little run for Cena, and I actually hope he beats Rusev and we keep getting more of these open challenges.
That would be an interesting twist. You know, it hasn't. Yeah, some people would say he doesn't give relevancy to the U.S. title. And although you know what, neither the title of the U.S. title, the U.S. title nor the IC title, haven't really meant much in the last decade, and that's a shame. Because way back when, we'll say about 20, 25, maybe 30 years ago, the IC title and the U.S. title, although be in two different companies, were like the working man's title. You get to that title, you all of a sudden get boosted up into, you know, facing top tier talent and maybe even facing people for the world title. Now it's like become kind of a joke. And I will agree. I'll go out on a limb and say I will agree. You know, that this whole concept of giving the chance for the young guys to get out there and wrestle forward is definitely interesting. It's giving a new, I want to say new outlook on the U.S. title, maybe a new chance for the young guys to finally get in there and maybe win it. I mean, you've seen what happened. I mean, could Neville have won it on Raw last night? Could it had Rusev not gotten in there? Or had he gotten in there and caused it? I mean, could he have won it without after he did that big 360 splash or whatever that was? That's a pretty cool move, by the way. But and what do you think about this new advancement of we want Lana chance?
Oh,
They're building her up for something.
Yeah. I know a lot of people are thinking that Lana's gonna switch sides and become a babyface, but I actually think that this is all a setup. I think that Lana and Rusev have something planned. And she's going to, maybe it happens at the pay-per-view where, the way you get John Cena to quit is by having Rusev threaten a woman. Because, John Cena's the all-American good guy, and that's something he would never stand for. And maybe that's how you get Cena to say, I quit, if Rusev threatens Lana, and then the next thing you know, both of them are laughing because they got one over on the champ.
That actually could happen. Because I see him being that kind of guy to do that. And for that matter, it makes me go back and think about I don't know why this one came into my head, but the match between Mick Foley and Ric Flair and Melina getting involved, and Flair was going to take that winch out with the spiked baseball bat. I can't remember what the barbed wire baseball bat, and until Mick said, "I quit." I don't know why that came into my mind all of a sudden. Of all things to think about, that one. But that was a bloodbath. Right. That's another story. But yes, I could see Cena doing that. That would be an interesting twist. I never gave that one a thought, but that's definitely a good idea. I like it. And you're right about the rematches. They haven't really had much, and it's usually in this time between after WrestleMania up until SummerSlam, where they're just kind of floundering a bit, trying to look for a new turn, if you will, a new build-up for new talent, new stories, and so forth. And then SummerSlam comes along, and they have some incredible matches. I'm just thinking back to the one with Punk and Lesnar a couple years ago. That was an incredible match. Could they repeat the same kind of formula and go into SummerSlam with an even better match? I mean, I hate that they're not going to be in California anymore because I was thinking I want to go, but that's another story. We'll see. But I got to ask you, and I mentioned this earlier because I didn't really know. I was sitting here scratching my damn head. I had to say, what in the world are they doing? I don't get it. Is this something good? Could it be something good? Is it something bad? Is it a mockery? What the hell is a Macho Mandow?
Oh, man.
I don't know what to think about that. I even posted that on one of my wrestling pages that I have, and I said, I want to ask people's take on it. Some people take it as disrespectful. Some people take it as, they're doing something to honor Randy and Hogan and the Mega Powers. But do they really just not have nothing for Damien Sandow and Curtis Axel to do? Macho Mandow and Axelmania running wild, brother.
Right.
What you think, man?
Damien Sandow is a good performer, as we saw, when he was doing the whole Miz thing. But the whole thing with him coming out now, going back to the imitating people thing, it doesn't make sense, because remember when he came out a couple weeks ago when he cut that big promo about how everybody was making fun of him, and he had to do all this silly stuff to keep his job, and now he doesn't have to do it anymore. Then he went right back to doing it. And so
but I wonder if there was a reason for that.
I think the reason is I don't know if they have any ideas of how to take this character and make him popular without the imitation gimmick.
Do you think he's better suited to be a sidekick than an actual breakout star?
I don't know, because I think that there's a lot of potential with Sandow. I think that, having him as the guy that used to be this pompous, smarter than you smarter than you heel, is now, just a good guy trying to figure out what his role is in this company. Like, that's an interesting story. We get to see the real Damien Sandow, but now, and it's not that him and Axel are bad in their imitations, although I will say that as far as Macho Man impressions go, Jay Lethal's is still better than Sandow's was.
There you go.
But I just don't know where they go with it after this week. When they have the match with the Ascension, how far does this whole new Mega Powers thing go?
Yeah, I was kind of taken aback. I mean, I heard that he'd gotten a good reception about the Macho Mandow thing, and I'm curious because I should definitely reach out to Landy, and I want to get his take on it, because the question has always been posed, could this generation handle Landy Poffo, the genius, coming back to television as in a manager capacity? I mean, do they even know what they'd be in for? Because, Genius was in the era of the Bobby the Brains and the Jimmy Harts and the, sensational Sherrys and so forth. And, Landy was one of the best. And they still say he probably should come back and manage Sandow and maybe go back to being the pompous character that he was, I'm wondering if he's seen the Macho Mandow character and his thoughts about it. I definitely should reach out to him and ask, get his point of view if he's heard anything. I'm pretty sure he has.
I wonder what he thinks, because I do think that he and Sandow would make a great team if he went back to that old character. But I just don't know, man. Like, the way, granted, they did the right thing and put Randy in the Hall of Fame, but just the way that the WWE and the Poffo family, like the way they treat the Poffo family, it all seems very, I'm not going to say disrespectful, but it's almost like they're an afterthought. Their feelings are an afterthought.
Pretty much. Which, I mean, I get why Landy did the Hall of Fame. He did it for the Macho Maniacs, the Macho fans. When it came right down to it, he was straightforward. Anytime we've ever talked about it, whether it be on air or off air, he says, look, I know the fans don't want to hear me. They want to hear him. So I want them to be at peace and finally realize that he's in the Hall of Fame now. You have to find something else to complain about, because that was something that Randy should have been in there, if not at the same time as Hogan, at least maybe the next year after Hogan. Because I know they say, well, Hogan was the best and the be-all, end-all. And, Randy was right up there with him. Piper was right up there with him. Flair was right up there with him. But I don't know. It's when I posted pictures, people were commenting as far as when they posted. I posted one with Vince, Triple H, and Lanny, and most people would post comments saying stuff like, it looked very uncomfortable. It was a very uncomfortable looking picture, like they didn't really want to be there. Vince didn't really want to be there. And, of course, Hunter with his comments that he made years ago calling Randy a dinosaur. People are still in that ridiculous sentiment that, you know, there was some that rumor that, well, obviously it was not true. And if it was, we'll never know. All we can do is speculate. But it just looked uncomfortable. It just looked forced. And it's a shame because they have such a great family that they should be honored. I mean, it should be just as honored, just as well as maybe the Von Erichs. I mean, the Poffos owned territory way back when, and were big with their battles against Memphis way back when, against the, you know, Jerry Lawler's company. So I mean, I would like to think that the Poffos are up there as one of the big families in wrestling that should be honored. That the Guerreros, the McMahons, the Harts, you know, the Von Erichs, why not? You know, Lanny should be honored, and so should his father.
Yeah, I think that's a no-brainer to everybody that does not live in the McMahon bubble. But you know, it's we've seen it. You know, it's how Vince McMahon loves to frame history in his terms, and that's why, you know, I like you said, we understand why Lanny did what he did, you know, and to give back to the fans and to put everything to peace. But man, like, and from a WWE standpoint, they did not act in good faith, in my opinion, with the Poffo family.
Yeah. But just switching terms here for just a moment, I got to ask, because you're the TNA guy, you definitely follow them a lot more than I do at this point. But I got to ask, you know, with TNA's success that they've had, do you see that they could actually, I don't know if I want to say work together, but could have some kind of war between TNA, led by Dixie Carter, which was actually Jarrett's company, and Jarrett's new company, Global Force, led by Jeff and Karen? Could you see some kind of war between these two companies, very similar to what Wildkat and Reality of Wrestling are doing, although there's much more animosity between TNA and Global Force, I'm sure. What do you think?
Man, I think that'd be really cool, and I think, you know, not just TNA and Global Force, but I think it would make sense for all of the companies that are not, you know, WWE to work together, because, you know, I don't think we're in a climate where somebody's just going to all of a sudden jump up and be the number 2 challenger and be able to go head-to-head and take out the McMahon Empire. I think, you know, it's going to have to go back to almost the territory days where, you know, we share talent, you know, we work together, you know, we may not promote each other or we may not, you know, do direct storylines, but we work together for the good of the business. So I'd love to see more cooperation between like an ROH and a Lucha Underground or a TNA and a Global Force. But in terms of doing a storyline, I think it'd be cool. It would be cool to see Jarrett just show up and he's like, you know, I used to run this place. Now I'm going to run you guys out of business.
Because I feel like there's some animosity between Dixie and her family against the Jarretts, really. I really believe that because she's made it a point, or at least from what I've read. I haven't heard the interview she did with Steve yet, but I feel like there's almost animosity, like there's some kind of jealousy, or maybe even the fact that maybe she feels that her talent could be taken away and Jeff could pick him up and make Global Force as big as he had made TNA at one point. You know, it would be interesting to see if that could come into play, or because, you know, let's be honest, unless you have a financial backing of a Ted Turner, of a Rupert Murdoch, of a, I can't really say Vince because I don't believe he's a billionaire anymore. I believe he's a millionaire, but I'm not sure if I consider him a billionaire yet, because he was at one point. I don't think he is now. But somebody with that type of financial backing to actually give them the television, give them the money to purchase these big stars and actually give them something to stand up against WWE with, because that hasn't happened since WCW. And even back then, times were different. They didn't have those guaranteed contracts, and talent they're binded by their contract. They can't jump ship immediately. You know, it can come over eventually, but not right away like they were doing back in the 90s. So I don't see anybody really standing up to the McMahon Empire and taking them out. They're just not, not even if you put all the companies together to do that. And not that I say that they would want to do it, but I think that people should realize that when there's more competition out there, when there's other opportunities for other wrestling companies to get up there and be recognized, and like you said, like at the territory days, and have a place to where you can hone your craft to where you could make it to the big time and be on television, whether it be with Jarrett, with Dixie, with Vince, or even, I'm not sure who owns Ring of Honor, but that Ring of Honor crew, or even Lucha Underground, because Lucha's, it's been doing good, been doing some good things. I got to watch the match again that I saw with Alberto El Patron against Johnny Mundos, and man, I watched it the second time on television or online, and it was just an incredible match. If you haven't seen it, I recommend you do. Incredible match.
I mean, I think that would be just a great thing, not only for the companies, but for the workers themselves. Because let's say if I'm TNA and I've only got 6 months worth of work for, let's say, Austin Aries, and so I'm like, well, Austin, we've only got 6 months of work for you. So what we're gonna do is, after those 6 months are up, I'll let you go to Lucha Underground for 6 months, and in return, we get Johnny Mundo, and you get new feuds and new characters, and then 6 months after that, the guys can go back to their original promotions, or maybe Aries will stop off in ROH for a couple months, and it keeps the guys fresh, it keeps them working, and most importantly, it provides a stable income for these guys.
Yeah, well, that would make sense, and seem like it'd be a good idea if it just seemed like in this era where it's more about the money. I really believe now it seems like more about the money and not so much the heart. Although I will kind of bite my tongue and say that's not for everybody, because I don't know if you watched it. I definitely caught it. I'm pretty sure you might have caught it by now. The ESPN E60 Behind the Curtain for WWE, that was really, really well done. Really well done. I really enjoyed that. And learning about the characters, the young characters, not necessarily talking about the old school ones, but more recognizing the young guys like Ray LaPon, I guess you can call him by his real name, whether he was Leo Kruger or, why am I drawing a blank on what his name is now? What was his name?
Adam
What is
Rose?
his name now?
What was his name? Adam Rose?
Adam Rose. Oh, my God. I don't know why I drew a blank on his name now.
Yeah.
That's bad.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely was the star of the piece, because it was like, man, like this guy, if you just watch him on WWE TV, he's really kind of an afterthought, kind of a nothing. But, man, if you didn't feel the passion that he has for the sport and the love that he has for his family after watching that, man, you don't have a pulse.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And then got to see guys like for instance Xavier. He wants to be the first professional wrestler to have a PhD. That's freaking awesome, dude. I more power to him. And then I don't know. And then from what I understand, and I could be wrong. Like I said, I read a lot of things, so I'm not sure until I actually see it happen. But I've read that Adam Rose wants to go back to the Leo Kruger character, which didn't get over in NXT, but what do you think? Do you think it could get over on Raw or SmackDown? As a demented swamp guy?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I thought they actually had something going for a little while where Rose was still, kind of the king of the party, but he was just an angrier version of his fun-loving character. And I thought if they kept, pushing that direction and twisting it up to a whole nother level, like you could have had this almost like a new school version of Goldust, where he's got all these crazy mannerisms and you think the guy is off of his rocker, but when he gets in the ring, he's all business and he's got a mean streak.
No doubt. He definitely has that, and it's been showing. But it's almost like they don't really know what to do with him. They got rid of the bunny. I swear the bunny got over it quicker than he did, and that's a shame, too, because it was an animal, or, I put the quote fingers, animal, but everybody was predicting that this guy was going to be what was the name of the guy that he was compared to? I always wanted to say Austin Powers, but no.
Austin Powers.
That's the name that popped up when I seen him. But then I know he was actually after some other guy that dated Katy Perry or was married to Katy Perry, I believe.
Oh, Russell Brand.
Russell Brand, that's the guy.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know why Austin Powers. That's
yeah,
bad.
Austin Powers. Like, yeah, baby.
There you go. But going off the side here for just a moment, we are actually going to bring back, I know we usually try to space it out, but we're bringing back an off-the-cuff episode next week. We've got a few surprises in store, and we're going to have some fun with it. Next week it'll be an off-the-cuff, kickback, well, I don't know if I'll call it a kickback, but an off-the-cuff episode where we obviously will talk about the end result of Payback, the aftermath on Raw. We've got a few surprises in store. We're going to see what you guys think about them. And I know for a fact that I'm working on 2 deals. Obviously, I mentioned last week having 1 star from one of the more legendary wrestling families out there coming to the show in the early part of June, and also still working on current TNA superstar coming to the show in the end of June. So big things are coming this summer, folks. I've been working hard on these for the last couple of months, and hoping to get this thing on and going, or was it on and popping? I don't know if that's the right word.
On and popping.
Right
there you go. Yeah.
I don't know if I say it right, but you know. I don't know. You know what though? I got to ask. I seen some pictures that you were posting on Facebook about some kind of graduation. How did that go for you guys?
Yeah, my sister recently graduated from Liberty University, so we all headed up to Lynchburg and were there to celebrate her big day. And it was a long drive, and it was hot sitting out there in the sun for a couple hours, but it was all worth it, you know. And she, like Shane was saying earlier, man, sometimes in life you got to work twice as hard or 3 times as hard to accomplish your dream and meet your goals, and she was able to do that. So I'm very proud of my little sister.
There you go. Congratulations to your sister and to you as well. I'm sure you're a proud brother. But, you know, we got your upcoming show coming up on Wednesday. Tell us a little bit about what's coming up this Wednesday.
Yeah, we got another episode of the Kings of Sport coming out this week, and we're going to talk some NBA playoffs. So you got a little sneak preview earlier when the champ was talking about the Cavaliers and the Bulls. So we'll talk NBA playoffs this week. We're going to talk about Tom Brady being suspended for the first 4 games of the NFL season. And we also are going to have on one of the senior editors for Marvel.com, Ben Morris, to talk about the Avengers 2. So if you have not seen that movie yet, you might want to check it out before you listen to the show, because we're definitely going to get into some spoilers. So that's up this week on the Kings of Sport. And you can check that out on iTunes, check it out on Stitcher, and you can also follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Kings of Sport.
Awesome. Good deal. And, you know, this Thursday, the guys have been on the mission, Not Your Mama's radio show, continue on with their Independent Wrestling Month as they bring on some of the young independent stars. And whether we get vets or not, you know, to get to sit down and listen to some advice from a guy like Sir Mo, he being a wrestler, being a promoter, and a trainer, it definitely put into work an idea that I concocted a little bit to bring in for a future show 4 guys who have been trainers, wrestlers, and promoters, and make it a real deal. And just, you know, Nate and I won't really have to do much. We'll be like, oh, really? So how about this? And just sit back and shut up. Let them talk.
Yep.
Those are the best kind of shows, because you don't really have to say much to get them going.
We'll be like the moderators during the presidential debate.
Oh, God. I don't know about that. But no, I think that's a good comparison, though. That's a good comparison, because they each have their own point of view. And, you know, when we get some details and get to sit that all aside, I think you guys will really enjoy it. I think so. And that's all I can say about that. I know with the guys on Thursday. They've got some appearances coming up. They'll be appearing in up in the East Coast for the New England Fan Fest, and also, I believe, in Seaside Heights, New Jersey, up the Jersey Shore. But tune in Thursday for more information, because they've always got something cooking. That's all I can say. They've always got something in the works, something going on. They look to be broadcasting live from some of these shows, and maybe even get a chance to bring on guys like a Kurt Angle or Mick Foley, and we'll see what happens. But Raw was interesting. Payback's going to be crazy. I do think that they're oversaturating this month. I think they need to pull back a little bit. If they were to do this one, let's say they do this one, they'll skip a month, like skip June, come back in July with maybe the Money in the Bank, I guess, and then go on to SummerSlam, skip September, do the Hell in a Cell, or whatever one October is now. I can't remember what it's called. Oh, no, maybe skip October, too, because that's always a good build for Survivor Series, because that's still one of the old school ones that you need a good build for it. Like last year, they had that whole thing with the Authority, their job on the line, and then come back 6 weeks later. That had to be the stupidest thing I've ever seen, but let's not relive that torment. Good grief.
Right.
I got rid of that riffraff a couple weeks ago, so.
You hit him with the old Vince McMahon, you're fired.
I don't know. I don't know if I can match up to Vince's or even Donald Trump's, but I think I did a pretty good job with one. But I gotta pay you guys a visit again on your show sometime soon. We'll see how that works out.
I definitely think Marcus is a longtime fan, but I think he's getting to the point now, like you mentioned, there's way too many shows close together, so I think we're going to chill on wrestling on our show for a minute, but once we get around SummerSlam, we're definitely going to be getting back into the swing of things, so you definitely have the open invite, my brother. All
right. Sounds good, man. Sounds good. And keep up to date with everything that we're doing as far as Pipebomb Radio goes, as far as Not Your Mama's radio show, on pipebombradio.net, has all of the social media, from Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, to YouTube. Our man Elio 2N Canella is doing some amazing things. I can't thank him enough for hanging in there with us, being our audio-visual guy, being the current art guy, although I'm going to put word out once again. I am looking for a graphic designer. If interested, please message us on Facebook, or you can send me an email, pipebombradioshow@hotmail.com, and we can talk details, because I definitely need somebody to work on some artwork for me. I can't put this all on Elio. He does enough already. He's a man that wears too many hats. Pretty soon he's going to end up tipping over because he's got too many hats on. But he does good work, and I can't thank you enough, Nate, for doing the work that you've done, being with the voiceovers and the work we continue to do on the show here. Hope you're having fun still, because we got some more fun to come.
Oh, definitely, my brother. It is we keep on rolling along. Week after week, the hits keep on coming. This week, we had a great interview with Shane Taylor, and if you caught the program late, go back and check this out. Because it was definitely a conversation that I think was very interesting and also very enlightening. Like, you got to love his attitude about the business and just working hard. So, I look forward to more great conversations with up-and-coming guys, with legends, and everybody in between.
There you go. Tune in next week, guys. We've got an off-the-cuff episode with some surprises in store. But for now, we'll go ahead and call it a close for tonight. On behalf of Nate Milton and myself, Felix, for Pipebomb Radio, we're going to go ahead and call it a close, saying keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars. Good night, everybody. Good night, Nate. I'll be talking to you soon.
All right.